For example, we can get some high street residential rates if somebody wants to buy a property to move back home. But if you're doing it simply as an investment buy to let, then the best rates out there just now at 25% deposit.
Thanks everyone for tuning in to watch this video, another Wednesday video of ours. This week we are speaking with Tony Burke and Scott Creighton of Wright Associates mortgage brokers. We've been working with Wright and specifically Tony in one form or another for a very long time now. I think 20 odd years. He's helped.
Far too long.
Sorry.
Far too long.
He's helped people in the company get mortgages. He's currently helping me get a mortgage. So we work very closely with these guys, and they do a great job for our clients. So hi Tony and hi Scott. How are you both?
Yeah, well, mate.
Yeah, doing fine.
It's nice and rainy in Glasgow as usual.
Yeah, just in time for COP26.
Yeah, right. I was reading about that.
It's absolutely raining cats and dogs here, so
I expect no less of Scotland, to be honest.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll just do just 5 or 6 quick fire questions. We're going to call them basically just 5 or 6 questions that we get asked most frequently. And if you could just give us some, they don't necessarily need to be brief, but just some answers to those, so we can direct people to this video when they come to us with mortgage questions and info on who they can use and how to do it. And then we'll do that longer podcast with more details. So if people want to find out even more, they can go listen to that, and we'll do a few case studies and talk about your book, Scott, right at the end. Right. Okay. So
what's your first question?
First question is, what is the best rate you are getting for clients at the moment? We've seen a lot about rates coming down. So is that being passed over to expat investors? What are the best rates you can get as a standard expat?
Okay, Callum, the rates in the UK are slightly different to rates for foreign nationals or expats. If you're looking at rates in the UK, it's very common to have rates round about the 1% mark for a lot of lenders. Now, we've got to define the two different aspects of the property purchase. You get a buy-to-let purchase and you get a residential purchase. Residential rates are normally lower than buy-to-let rates. So currently, for buy-to-let rates today, if you put down a 25% deposit, you're looking at rates round about the 2.89, 2.74. That's for expats and foreign nationals buying in the UK.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, a lot of people think that a residential would have lower rates, right? It's something we tell people a lot of the time. It's actually easier to get a buy-to-let mortgage as an expat.
Yeah, but residential rates are lower. For example, we can get some high street residential rates if somebody wants to buy a property to move back home. But if you're doing it simply as an investment buy to let, then the best rates out there just now at 25% deposit is around about the 2.74, 2.89. If you've got a larger deposit, then you're looking around about 2.54.
Okay, cool. And what about the other end of the spectrum then? So that's best case scenario. If you're not best case scenario, you're looking at slightly higher rates, right? What would you say, just so we can give people a realistic picture of the best?
Okay, the average rates on the market are around about between 3 and 3.5%. So if someone can't go to a particular lender, then they'll go to the average lender and they'll get between 3 and 3.5%. The worst rates on the market, realistically, are for lenders that will lend on project that the vast majority of the lenders won't lend. So you're then looking at rates around about 7 to 9%, really quite high. But that's last case scenarios if you can't get finance anywhere. Yeah. The vast majority, best rates, like I said, is 2.89. Average rates is around about 3 to 3.5%.
I should say as well, Callum, the minimum deposit would be 25%.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's another question we get. I think that might even be on the list. That's another question we get an awful lot is the main questions. Can I get a mortgage and what deposit do I need? But I think that's good to know, right, guys, because it goes to show that you can always get a mortgage. It just depends on the rate, right? So you've got the spectrum there. Most people sit in the middle or towards the good end, but worst case scenario, you may have to pay a bit more for a few years. Okay, next question. next, the third most common thing we get is I tried my bank back in the UK over Christmas. We haven't had that for a few years because no one's really been back, but we got it a lot previously. You know, I went back for a holiday. I went into Lloyd's. I went into NatWest, HSBC, all the high street banks in the UK, and they wouldn't give me a mortgage. So would you guys recommend using a high street bank? And if not, who are the best lenders to use as an expat?
Well, as an expat, the vast majority of the UK lenders won't take you on. So going into your local branch, your NatWest UK or your Halifax UK, they won't take on NatWest clients for buy-to-lets.
Or
expats. What you're really looking at is there's a couple of offshore banks. The main two are Skipton International and NatWest International. They'll look at expats. They're high street lenders, but they're offshore banks.
Yep.
The main banks in the UK, you're looking at Bank of China UK. You're looking at the smaller building societies like Sir Kent Reliance. You're looking at Saffron. You're looking at Penrith. Dudley Building Society. So there isn't a lot of high street banks in the UK that will take expats. They're mainly looking at the smaller building societies because it's such a niche market.
Yeah, and I suppose that highlights the point of actually working with a broker that knows their stuff, right? You know, because if you just try and use a high street bank, you're not going to get very far. So, so that highlights the benefit of you guys and what you do for us and our clients. You know, okay, process. What's the process if I want to get a mortgage? What documents do I need, or how do I do it? Would I approach you, and then what do I need to do? What is the A to Z process of getting a mortgage in place?
Well, you'd come across to us. You'd be normally recommended onto us via someone else. And what we do with clients is we ask them to fill in a small data caption file, a small fact find. Based on that information, we then go away, have a chat with the client initially, find out what the client wants, and then we'll produce what's the best rates on the open market because we are totally independent. So we'll look at the whole of the open market, including the offshore market, recommend to the client what's the best rates, how to go about getting a mortgage. The next step after that is discuss the client's the quotes, the rates, see the one the client wants to go with, and then we'll get what's called as a decision in principle or an agreement in principle. After that, we send the clients out a checklist of information if they want to move forward to application. We then do the application. Sometimes it's a paper application, sometimes it's an online application. But the checklist contains very simple stuff. It contains certified ID, proof of address, 3 months bank statements, 3 months pay slips, usually a letter from your employer, and they might ask for credit card statements depending on what other liabilities you have. But it's the exact same information that you are asked for in the UK as you ask for as an expat. The mortgage process isn't different.
Yeah, and it's not as scary as people think. You know, it's not as difficult or as scary. You know, that's the biggest thing. People hear mortgage and it's like, whoa, mortgage. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Okay, so what are there things I can do to get a better rate? So you mentioned earlier, if you have a bigger deposit, you would get a better rate. Are there any other things I could do to ensure I get the best rate possible?
The best rate possible, if you look at is a larger deposit gets you a better rate. So normally the minimum deposit is 25%. Usually a deposit of 40% will get you some of the best rates on the open market. One of the things I would mention about rates, it's really down to the different variables. As you mentioned earlier about using a broker, the different variables of each different lender, it really highlights, it's not so much the rates, it's really who fits the criteria of the client. So therefore, if someone in, for example, Singapore, they can get some of the best rates in the open market. But if someone's in South Africa, there's very few lenders that will do that. So therefore, it's not the best rate in the open market, it's what's the best lender for the client.
Yeah,
sure.
I'll give you an example of that. Sure. Callum, sorry. The other day, I was working on a case, and there was an issue with the client's address, and it was basically a deal breaker for the Bank of China, which would have given them the best rate.
Yeah.
But because there was an issue with the client's address, Bank of China they stonewalled it. So we had to go to another lender, which would accept other criteria for the client's address, but the rate was slightly higher. You see, so it really does depend a lot on the specifics, you know, of a client's particular situation. So each and every case is slightly different.
And I think that's an important point as well. Actually, it is, every case is different, right? It's not a size of one. It's not a case of one size fits all. And I think again, you know, we don't just say use a broker because, you know, for the sake of it. You know, we use brokers, we use you guys ourselves, and a lot of our clients do, because you do a good job and you find the deals that suit the type of property, the client situation, etc., etc. Anyway, look, thank you very much, gents. I think we'll leave the questions there. We'll wrap that one up, and then we'll go in to do the slightly longer pod. How's that sound?
Perfect. Nice speaking to you, mate.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Cheers, gents.
Cheers.
Bye.